Welcome to Loleventvods. Watch the full game of today's First Stand 2025 matchup.
Lilia banned. What could the Lilia mean? Sejuani. There's the Azib. They saw through us. What?
Yeah. This is like really going hard on getting rid of AP jungles though. So I'm wondering what that necessarily means for, you know, the goals for this draft.
I really think it's Sejuani. It could be Maokai too. Cassante. Oh, we've got Driver in the top lane as well for CFO.
Yep. This is the classic sub. This is what happens. Rest comes in for game one, and Driver takes over for the next game.
Driver, I would say, is a little bit more of the stereotypical tank top player.
Yep.
A little bit more. That's not to say that he is exclusively that, but from what we've seen, he's more leaning towards that. And with the Maokai ban, I think CFO have done a good job of banning away a lot of what KC was targeting in this second game. The Varus priority. So this time around, they've said, you know what? For too long, our bot lane have been conceding pressure. We want the bot lane 2 versus 2 push. So we're going to lock in the Varus, and it is a great champion for getting you that push. They could also early rotate their bottom lane as well. Maybe they want to go for something like the Nautilus, but Braum could be a problematic champion depending on where they choose to lock it in. CFO have a lot of options here. They could grab the Sejuani for themselves. Ginger is more of the carry style player. So I'm curious as to what direction he will go. We've seen him play things like the Pantheon before. We know that he's, I mean, with Vi gone. I'm curious as to what direction he will actually go here in this draft.
Quite a few options. Feels like Doggo's just picking his most played champions, sort of going down the line. Yep. Very comfortable on the Misfortune. You need to get outranged a little bit there in the bottom lane, but
Sedge.
Yeah, I think if the concept isn't broke, don't fix it, right? Put Junjia on one of these playmaking tanks and see what can happen. Of course, Yike no stranger to trying to take down a couple of Sejuani. So we'll see what he does have planned for this.
Jarvan is what I wouldn't mind seeing.
Really? It's been a while since I've seen
It's not going to be Jarvan.
You'd hope not. I haven't seen a Jarvan-Yone combo work out all that well in recent memory, but just haven't seen much J4, to be honest.
I'm assuming it's for Vladdy. But that is a surprise. So what if I mean, they banned Lilia and Zyra. Are they thinking Nidalee? Is this a Yike Nidalee game?
I mean, it works, kinda, with what they have so far. Chains of Corruption is some setup. Jace is another one. But this is so dangerous, because how do you then play an AP jungle if they then get 2 more bans and you've already banned 2 of them?
Might be an Ivern game.
Oh.
It might be an Ivern game, you know. The question is, will CFO read that? We'll have to wait and see. Now, you have a lot of options here, CFO, because, like, you've seen... Now, the advantage case you have is whether they answer with mid or top here, assuming they do. You can, so they're going to answer with top. So now you could just ban out mid laners, right? Things like Orianna you could consider banning. We know that Honkyu's willing to play Silas, maybe the Trista... I mean, I think Silas could be great.
Yeah, Silas Sejuani is always good. But this is once again CFO being like, we don't really mind what you have. We are going to pick teamfight composition, and we will then play teamfight composition.
And the thing is with KC's comp, like, they have fantastic side laning, right?
Yeah.
But CFO, they're a team that will drag you into the fight. That's what they love to do. So I think it's going to be a tricky one. I like the Renata ban. They're actually focusing on the bot side of the map, knowing that, hey, we don't want to concede all pressure. We know we're going to get pushed in on the top side of the map. So we need to get some agency somewhere. So let's remove some of these power supports, and they can now early rotate their support themselves. The question is, what support are they going to ban away the Nautilus? Or maybe they're considering banning away Braum, locking in something like Nautilus for themselves. Rel, of course, is still available.
Yep, Rel's a good one. This Silas ban, absolutely fantastic. Just get rid of melee things that pair well with the Sejuani and do magic damage. Silas is the
I wonder if they'll think about an Akali.
Yeah, I don't, like, Akali and Sejuani feel less synergistic, but we have seen it work. And they did, so they've taken away the Ivern as well. And now, yeah, I mean, there are other AP junglers that you could go towards, but it's really running thin.
Getting down on the list,
yeah, these are definitely the A-tier ones, and I don't know which tier we have to go to now.
Because you're thinking maybe like...
Amumu.
Yeah, Amumu, Zac, maybe.
Yeah, Zac's another option.
Or Nidalee. So,
well, Nidalee is still up, like you say. I think Nidalee is probably looking like the best one.
I do not associate Yike with a Nidalee.
Yeah.
And that Braum ban, by the way, like, Norless. That is the pick right now. The question is, will CFO look to try and take that one away? And if they do, what does KC then use as an answer? Do they just go for the Rel themselves? Is CFO thinking about getting the Rel?
And also, counterpick for support is really powerful. Kaiwing can just sort of pick for lane once they see exactly what KC are doing. Wouldn't mind a mid lane pick here, but also just taking away Nautilus, that would work as well. Timer is up, and it's Talia.
I think that's good. I like it. Very safe, very stable. Pretty good matchup into the Yone, just because you can create a lot of space between you and the Yone. Yeah, rocks, simply. I mean, what is man's greatest weakness? A heavy projectile.
Indeed, indeed.
So, yeah, I think it's... I mean, as well, look at this Wombo combo they've got built for themselves. It's not like crazy Wombo, but they've got Engage, Initiation with the Sejuani. They've got good follow-up with the Scion.
Oh, there it is.
Old school. Yike. I'm disappointed in myself. I should have known this. I should have known this. What am I saying? Back on the G2 days, this was one of his favorites, his go-to classics. When it comes to comfort, this is definitely something that that Yike would default to. Definitely not something we've seen this year, really.
And also, there's a limited amount of hit points collectively for the team right now. Targamas is going to take that Nautilus that you were talking about before. That is going to provide a bit of frontline, but once again, I feel like this is a difficult composition to execute here for KC.
It's got damage.
Oh, heck yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And if you start winning, you're going to keep winning.
You will definitely keep winning. That is 100% true. I'm really curious, what will the... I'm expecting Rel. I think that they just want something to round out their team fight, have a little bit more engage in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they... Okay, yeah, so they're going to keep it stock standard. All right. So again, CFO, their approach is front-to-back team fight. They've got a lot of AoE, a lot of zone control. The great thing about this composition as well is that even if KC is on the objective first, you have a lot of tools to contest that objective again. The ability to create space and kind of fight over these neutrals, it seems very powerful. KC have a lot of damage. Their side lane threat is potent. If these solo laners get ahead, they will be very difficult to stop, which means a lot of the burden and responsibility again falls on Yike. And I admire that KC are still putting their trust in him, because Yike, 3 out of 4 games, his impact has been very minimal. It's been difficult for him to really get the ball rolling. And you can attribute that to potentially KC not having winning lanes, which makes it harder for him to play the game, or you can burn it on his execution. Either way, the reality is that Yike isn't having the best tournament so far, and it's going to be crucial for him in this game to have impact if KC want to turn the series around.
Yeah, and I do think that this is the best way for them to do it, right? I actually think that as far as KC in this series is concerned, this is the draft that's looking more winnable than the one we saw prior, because CFO, last time we were praising them. They had 3 threats in that last composition. Now they've got 2. Now it's a Talia as well, which does require you to hit a whole bunch of buttons. And so I think that the targets that are being presented are much more easy to read here for KC. Kill Doggo probably do pretty well, is kind of the theory. But let's jump onto the Rift and see how it's going to go as KC look to try and bring us to a game 3.
30 seconds until minions.
As CFO, game number 1 was gorgeous. I think that they just played better League of Legends on top of the fact that they had a great draft.
Yep.
And we'll just have to see whether now, as the drafts kind of even themselves out, are we going to get a better performance out of KC as well?
Here's what I will say. You know, like, naturally, as an EU pundit, my instincts are KC, simplify, you know? Go for a draft that seems easy on paper to execute and rely on the fact that you can believe in yourself to be a better team than your opposition.
And see hero, kill hero is an EU quote.
Well, KC literally gave me the middle finger and said, we refuse to go simple. We're going to go 4 damage dealers with a Nautilus as our engage.
It is still the same theory, though, right? Like, you can,
it?
And they do have a lot more tools, right? Last time around, it was like all dive and you got mega outranged. Now, you outrange your opposition. You can actually play for your neutral much better. If you catch CFO on an objective, you're throwing piercing arrows and shock blasts and all this stuff, and it's going to be a real problem as we're fighting already.
And I think what's crucial is that KC, I think, have themselves a nice bot lane 2 versus 2, because I think that that's super important for this team. I think so far in this tournament, they have had difficulties getting those winning bot lane 2 versus 2s. and priority is going to be super important, especially given what these junglers want to do. So you can already see Kalist and Targamas off to a good start, chipping away the HP bars of Kaiwing and Doggo. Both junglers starting on the top side of the map are going to be pathing towards bot, as Jace is just going to be given free reign. I think Kana has had a good tournament so far.
He's a great Jace player too.
Exactly. It's one of his comfort picks, and I think that Casey's quite happy to just leave him alone to do his thing. And meanwhile, on driver's side, they're just like, hey, just do your best to survive the pressure, because at some point this Jace is going to become a monster in the side lane.
Yep. And at some point, I guess, Sion will just become unkillable as well.
Yeah,
so
precisely.
There is... It doesn't feel like the same kind of timer that we had the last time around. I feel like KC can always just out-execute against this composition, just with the raw amount of damage that they have. The fact that Brand will be able to eat through tanks so effectively once that Leandris comes in. This will be a composition that can sort of
ooh, look at this.
Pass the test of time as Junjia coming actually over the wall from the Dragon. That's a great engage from Kaiwing as Targamas completely off to the side. And now Kalist trying to play some alcove gaming, and unfortunately it is not where he wants to be. Doggo with first blood for the second game in a row.
Just really great pathing from Junja. The fact that he skips his whole bot side camps, he goes over the wall behind their opposition and just prevents any avenue of escape. Just extremely well executed, and they alleviate so much of that pressure on the bot side of the map. Really well played from CFO.
Beautifully done. So it looks like we have just picked up from where we left off, but now Yike trying to buck that trend. Pillar of Flame coming on through there, but unfortunately the Seer is going to land onto a minion. He has picked Zombie Brand though, which is by far one of the greatest skins of all time.
I agree.
But just the audio. The fact that he just walks around going...
Yeah, it really resonates with me the way he goes... Ugh.
Yeah, right?
It's like he's speaking to my soul.
Yeah. It's just so poignant. Like every word he says is exactly what you need to hear at every given moment. Shot Blast's going to go wide.
Was that a miss or a sidestep?
Both. But I think all misses are also sidesteps.
That's how... Because
reading the juke, you know what I'm saying?
One is more positive than the other, right?
Yeah.
So
we have a lot of power as commentators.
Oh, we do. But, I mean, we can't take anything away from Junja. He's had a great year. And he's continuing that momentum here at this tournament. A lot of the conversation that I heard was that he was going to come in as a team, like, it's a team revolved around him. He likes to play these carry junglers. He likes to have agency. And even on these tank junglers, you can see him constantly having agency. It's great to see him performing already here at First Stand. And I look forward to seeing him perform throughout the rest of the tournament, as so far, CFO find themselves with a first blood advantage over KC.
And I think it's interesting, right? Because you mentioned, like, it's not really about him because he's playing these tanks and stuff like that. I think it still is.
It's still about him.
It's still about him,
really
but
is.
it's him controlling his damage dealers, being in exactly the right place to utilize them effectively. It's like he's playing some chess,
It's like that hand-holding thing, you know, because, like, you sit there and like, oh, wow, yeah, you guys are doing a really good job getting all the kills. And then you look at the gold lead, he's 1.2k ahead on Skarner. You know what I mean? It's just like that. It's that idea of he's letting you think that you're the carry, when in reality, he is the guy. Yeah, at least this bottom side is going a little bit better outside of that first blood, of course, but still being able to control the lane a little bit more effectively. As here in the top lane, Kana will continue to just be all right after these teleports come in. You can see already health bar advantage for the Jace. But I don't know how much Driver cares. I think it's probably about 0. I mean, Sion players are like that, you know? Like, as soon as you have that Sion player DNA, the result of the game just isn't really a thing that you care about that much, or at least the result of the laning phase. Ooh. As Junji are going to have to flash away from that one. Last second on that flash. Yeah.
But Weaver's Wall going to deliver Hongq, but unfortunately doesn't flick anyone to the other side and now finds himself in an awkward spot. Vladdy not going to be able to go any further forward, though.
Situation
maybe he'd seal some fate.
Very awkward. Casey hesitant to commit to the play.
All right, Junju with some information as that ward goes over the wall, immediately spotted out. And Driver could be dead.
Nah, bro. As we mentioned earlier, HP is simply a resource to allow him to get farmed. You know what I mean?
Also, you have to utilize the passive. You know, it's like when you're playing Kovra. You have to die a few times. Otherwise, how are you utilizing the Acathian surprise?
Exactly.
Yeah. I often die on Zyra because maybe they've re-implemented her old passive.
There are people watching that have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's probably true. She used to turn into a plant that did true damage on death.
Yeah, she used to just, like, I guess, spit at you.
Yeah.
Just a
Or
thorn.
skewer you.
Skewer
It
is
was
a
more
great
like
word.
a javelin.
Harpoon,
Yes,
even.
yes.
Yeah. And it was true damage, and it did hurt.
And on release, it did about a bajillion damage. And so if you were the kind of player that would want to go into the middle of a team fight, press all of your buttons and die, she was the best champion ever, which is why I loved her. She was brilliant. We're talking about a champion that's not in the game, though. She was at least banned throughout both of these. We might get her in a game 3 if we make it there. KC looking to try and
They've got
deliver
themselves
us
an
towards it.
objective already, a positive, in comparison to game 1.
Precisely. And 3 Void Grubs is absolutely fantastic as well, meaning that you don't even necessarily need to fight for the next round if you don't feel like it. And they can put their focus towards the dragon that hasn't been taken just yet. As Kaiwing going to go for another engage. There's the Glacial Prison. Targamas going to have to flash. Does get the anchor out as Doggo picks it up with a double up. That is gorgeous. Kliss going to be able to walk out of the way of the bullet time, though, so Doggo not going to be getting a double. But that is exactly what CFO want. It is more money on Misfortune.
I mean, it's Ginger's world and we're just living in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The man gets level 6. He immediately sets his sights on the bot lane of KC and he makes another play happen. This man is just so proactive on the map. He finds another advantage for CFO, building a lead to nearly 1,000 now.
I'm trying to work out when Driver cares about what's going on here. And it hasn't happened yet.
He has popped his pot and that man is not losing HP.
Yeah. All right, another hook. This one going to connect onto a minion. Targamas really just wanted to take that one down and deliver some money over to Vladdy, and that is going to be successful. Honky now. Okay, we're unbinding the soul. That means that this Yone is going to be totally fine. And this Wombo combo, man, it's the Kaiwing Junja situation that is so difficult for KC to deal with right now. It was game 1. They were always together when they were making these plays. And once again, in game 2, in these isolated skirmishes, it has worked out a whole lot better. However, this time, KC are getting objectives off the back of these plays. There's like, something has to give this time. Whereas last time, CFO were able to just take every objective whilst also winning every skirmish and being everywhere on the map. And that should never happen. That's just sort of illegal.
That first item spike, I think, is going to be crucial for KC. Once they've got that completed first component, I think that that's going to be very significant in the ensuing fight. So far, they're a little bit ways off. But itemization very quickly starting to come through. As again, we
Look
see...
at the Zeke's rush as well. It's been a while since I've seen that one. I like it. As far as like first item spike, it feels like it's cheating a little bit because it's so cheap. But it's still first item. Ginger nailed it. He is now going to spot out Yike and Targamas moving towards this dragon. Banana brush control going to be there for KC. And that was a train.
That was.
Driver is he worried yet? I would be.
He popped a pop and he stopped taking damage. He's fine.
Yeah, I guess he isn't. He's also got a biscuit, which is just...
Ooh, that is good damage onto Kaiwing. The pings to retreat coming through from CFO as Vladdy is a bit behind. He is close to level 9, though. Here we go.
Yeah, Winter's Wrath.
You can't contest this, Ginger. I don't think you can contest this.
Well, he is walking around, somewhat in range, actually, but it's going to be Yike that wins the Smite War. Hook going to connect. But Targamas is sort of just 1v1ing against Doggo. Junja right in amongst it now. Is Vladdy trying to get out of there? The flash forward from Junja is crazy, and Targamas finds himself caught out. That's a killing spree for Doggo, as Kana is towards this top side, getting something back for KC. As the flash forward from Honkyu, this young man going nuts against Yike, who's taken so much damage. The threaded volley will finish him off. And Honkyu says, yeah, we have a monopoly on kills this game.
4 kills to 0, and Kaiwing has set his sights onto Kalist. I think he wisely will back away. But the target focus from KC continues to just be off. Like, again, when we get the replay up, notice how the target selection is just... The priorities just don't seem to be there. You've got one person diving onto Doggo, you've got another pair diving off into the river, and then the moment that CFO regroup, it becomes an easy execute, so they secure the dragon with ease. Kaiwing seems like the easy target, but look, on the left, you've got that engage onto Junja. On the right, you've got an engage onto Doggo. So many resources are committed, and then a quick TP in from Driver. means that it becomes an easy numbers advantage where they get that pick onto Targamas. They convert that into another pick onto Yike when he doesn't have his flash available anymore, and Honku with that confidence to flash in, make the play happen. He has the support from Driver, and we're back into the action.
We are right back into it as the Grubs now going to be the focus here. KC already with 3 under their belt, as Driver going to get booped back here by Canna. Should be 4 of them locked down here, as Yike should be able to collect them. There we go. That is grub number 1. CFO still haven't pulled the trigger just yet, though. Doggo securing 1 of them, so it's maximum 5, and that is going to be what happens. Chains of Corruption come through, but Kaiwing turns it into engage as Driver gets a phenomenal crash, does immediately go down, and it's a double here for Yike. Junja says no, remember, we're the team that gets all of the kills, as Targamas going to be the first one to be taken down. He also looks for the next, as Canna's put in prison, but not going to quite be enough. The Winters are up, unable to catch him, and Doggo, I don't know whether you want to tank 3 turret shots, and so isn't going to go any further forward. Really good fight for KC.
CFO is still ruthless in these 5v5s. You can see how aggressive they're willing to play, and Doggo now with a 1k gold lead over Kalist. The positioning for CFO means that they're able to steal 1 grub round and they convert it into a nice initiation, but the follow-up isn't really there from Doggo. His priority is to keep Kalist out of the fight. The damage looks good on the left side, but it's still not really enough, as utilizing that Scion passive, really the only way to play. Nice ulti comes through from Junja, sending his sights onto Kana. They can't quite convert it into another kill, but they came very close. 2 kills for 1, I believe, with the Grubs going in favor of KC. And crucially, Vladdy was kind of trapped on the outskirts of that fight, so that was still a 4 versus 5. It's a very tense affair, with CFO still leading in terms of gold for the objectives. KC in a much favorable position compared to game 1.
And that was a bit crazy as well, because Doggo didn't have ult. We mentioned at the beginning of this that Doggo's damage is extraordinarily important, much more so than game number 1, right? Because it's him and Honku that are going to be doing all of it, and you're a bit more single target focused if you are the Talia, right? So it's not going to be as noticeable in the chaos of a team fight. And Doggo not having that ult is actually a huge deal. Still CFO able to do okay as far as the skirmish, but if there was a bullet time layered on top, like as that 3-man knockup comes through from the Scion, that's everyone dead. That's not just, you know, a couple of picks here and there.
Very much agree. Honku trying to use the Fog of War there to get a bit of a pick onto Vladdy.
Yeah, the little Otacon wall
for it.
It's always cheeky.
So the pressure continues to mount for KC. Their carries really are falling behind here, as Kalist and Vladdy find themselves behind in XP.
You say that, but I'm looking at Yike. I'm feeling like Yike's the carry this time around.
Okay.
He's got his Leandries put together, and CFO, they don't have a lot of range. This is a death ball style of composition, and that's exactly what Brand wants. He just wants to throw fire around in amongst everyone. Like, his passive is going to be doing so much work. So I think Yike, if he blows up at the beginning of a fight, it could be almost lights out for KC, but if he's ever able to actually lay a spell after spell, this could be a real problem for CFO.
Yeah, the MasterCard lane economy snapshot showed us that there was at least a little bit more in terms of equality, in that there are options for the side of KC, right? Yeah. And I think that's the crucial thing, because in the previous game, it felt like that they were on a one-track mind where they had to catch that target out, they had to kill him quickly. This time around, with a multi-damage threat, in the front-to-back, sure, there is a scary front line that they have to deal with, but they have the damage, in theory, to deal with it.
Well, Weaver's Wall coming on through here is now Yike. He is cornered, and everything is about zoning. They knew that he was just dead to rights. And so CFO, they take down the jungler, and they now look for a dragon. That should be going their way, unless these health bars are low enough to cause a bit of an issue, but it looks like that isn't the case. Vladdy there towards the top side, doing some split pushing, as Junja at about 50%, dueling this Chemtech Drake. Driver going to move on over, is now Kalist! You're not going to be able to interrupt that ulti there as Junja gets over the wall, flashes back immediately as he realizes his mistake, and he will be ripped to shreds by that piercing arrow. CFO maybe bit off a little more they could chew that time around.
The dragon getting very low. Yike on his way back, but there's no smites here.
Yeah, they do just interrupt the queue, as Driver was pretty optimistic, thinking that his Scion was going to be the deciding factor there. Honku going to be getting to work here on the top side of the map, though, as second dragon in a row here for KC is a big deal. And you can see the fans here at Lol Park agree. This is what we're expecting. It was a bit quiet during game 1, but thankfully, a much better performance this time around.
CFO, though, wisely cross-mapping on the top side, able to secure that first tower. Crucially, though, I mean, we talked about it in the draft. When it comes to acquiring space, it's just so much easier for CFO to do that. Look at how quickly this collapse comes through, thanks to the ultimate from Honkyu and the engage that is followed up by with Junja and Kaiwing. They immediately get that pick onto Yike, and they punish him for being there. Kalist immediately forced to flash away, but a lot of resources now used. Junja overcommitting there, forced to flash, now trapped in the pit as Kana sees an angle, and they're able to convert the fight in their favor. Ambitiously drive, back in the action.
Yeah, crash down there from Kaiwing, going the wrong direction though, as Kana might be the one that they're looking for. His health bar is relatively high, but unfortunately he can't move and he has no friends. That's Honkyu taking another kill for himself. 2-0-2 now for the Talia. And CFO with full control of this Herald pit. And the gold still in their favor as well.
CFO just feels like that they go from 2 members to 5 members so fast.
Yes, instantly.
Like, they're so quick at collapsing on any single opportunity that KC, like, it's been happening throughout this series. You can't afford to rest on your laurels. The moment that you're out of position, this team will punish you for it.
Well, Driver going to come on over and get rid of all of these minions. I don't know about that one. Trains off the tracks a little bit here as Vladdy going to get rid of this turret and now go for the 1v1 that may take 7 years, but I think he might have the damage eventually unless Driver just gets towards the turret. Doesn't have the unstoppable onslaught though, as he does get that knock up. And Honkyu, he gets in there, looking for that threaded volley as Junju just sets it up for him. Man, what an alley-oop from the jungler. And this is exactly what you said. They just vacuumed all the players over.
Vladdy thought that he had a solo kill opportunity, but instead it was he who was punished. A 1.5k gold lead for Honkyu over Vladdy in the mid lane as he goes to 3-0-2 on the scoreboard. Look at this rookie having a fantastic debut on his international stage.
And look at this financial allocation as well, right? Like there's 1.6k lead for Honkyu. He's massively far ahead. Doggo picked up like the first 4 kills of the game. Junja going to be crashing the Rift Herald into this outer turret. Not quite enough to take that one down just yet. But like the money's exactly where you want it if you're CFO. And yes, in this game, KC feeling like it's a whole lot more competitive. But if it's Doggo and Honkyu that just keep getting everything, then that damage problem that we were talking about possibly cropping up is just not going to be there.
CFO, I mean, I love the way that they're playing the game. They're keeping it simple and they're punishing the mistakes of KC. Then overstepping their bounds. I mean, the good news for KC is that given their early objective priority, 2 dragons means that Soul Point is much further away. KC can afford to buy a little bit more time. But crucially, like, CFO finding these picks around these objectives, and it's giving them a lot of opportunity to set up around these neutrals. And you've got to remember that CFO love to force your hand. They will force a Baron if it means that they can get the fight that they want.
I'm still looking at Yike, even in that dragon fight from before, but we're going to check out this replay before I go into it, as this looked like CFO might have been caught, but Kaiwing just cues away.
I mean, again, though, this has been my main criticism of KC, where they just seem uncoordinated. Like, you've got Kalist catching the mid wave, you've got Vladdy in an awkward position, Yike was still finishing off his buffs. Like, it felt like that there was an idea for an engage there, but all of the team wasn't really on board, ready to collapse, and it ended up just falling apart. Whereas CFO, they feel like a singular unit, right? Like, they just feel like that the moment you make an initiation on one player, you're initiating onto all 5.
Yeah, and as soon as someone is crossing the river, the rest of CFO all know that that's happening and are ready to collapse. And that is happening right here, as we can see. 4 members, but there's also a Scion that can turn up at a moment's notice. Kalist giving a bit of a thumbs up here as Doggo wanting to crash this way forward once again. We're getting that zoom in. Here comes the train. Chains of Corruption are going to go wide as Kalist gets that flash to get over the wall. The Glacial Prison going wide there as well as CFO not going to find the engage they were looking for. And you can see Yike doing a lot of damage there to Honkyu as they do make their way out, but it's not really damage that's going to stick, right? Because CFO able to grab the turret and disengage.
I love the coordination that we're seeing from CFO again, and the utilization of the ultimates, knowing that KC is going to try and defend that tower. They get the flash out of Kalist, and what's spawning in 15 seconds? Dragon. So yes, their ultimates likely unavailable for this next objective, but the Rel ulti and the MF ulti still available, and the fact that Kalist doesn't have flash makes him a prime target for the ensuing fight. So CFO just, they're really running the map.
Yeah, and look at all this vision that they have now. Like you were saying, like you put pressure forward so that you can leave vision there as well. And so you can see on the top side, there's a line of wards that CFO have access for. They then now move towards the bottom side, grab all of that dragon vision that they're looking for, banana brush there, lane ward also. And so they can take that Drake whenever they feel like it, as KC trying to clear out vision where they can as well. More of a top-side focus as we can see. Arakan is up there. That is going to be a big deal. But as we can
we
see...
may have gotten our Ruinous.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I'm checking in, seeing whether we can find it.
Based on the icon, that on the minimap, that to me says Ruinous.
That's true, and I've never seen that one before. So I thought maybe because things have changed a little bit moving into today, that changed as well. But that is not how that one works. Is Honky going to be flashing away from Kana here?
That is more respect than I think Kana deserves.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Honky was a little bit jump scared from that one, but also didn't have the whole squad down there. And so maybe that's just what you do when you're not prepared for that level of engage. But the Dragon is going to be secured here by CFO.
Distributing the resources evenly, which means that they don't have to... I mean, they've got vision investment on the top side as well, allowing a driver to push in that top wave, while also securing an objective on the bot side of the map. KC being spread very thin. The atomization difference really starting to mount. Only a play to the Ruin King on Vladdy. He's also... I mean, in terms of levels, he's actually been able to keep up, which is good for him because, like, remember that goal difference was actually much bigger earlier. So good job on Vladdy being able to reduce that somewhat. But
he's
the same can't be said.
About 600.
Yeah. So the same can't be said for the AD carries, though.
Yeah, Doggo holding on to that lead. 5-0-2 though for the MF. That will do it as far as giving you that lead. Honky just put his he just put his Leandries together, so he does a lot of damage. But they look for the Rel, who just says, "I'm going to Magnet Storm you," and then even crashes down forward. It was a mistake because he dies, but it's going to be a win here for CFO. That is 3 on the bench for KC. And CFO might just move up towards this Ruinous Arakan, grab themselves a bunch of extra levels and all of that fun stuff. And Driver will just try and hold them off.
I mean, that collapse was just so fast and so ruthless. Doggo.
It feels like every time. It's like, and the collapse, and like, they're always there.
And Doggo just said, all right, bet. Like, he just threw down the ultimate and tore this opposition apart. That will be our first Ruinous Arakan. Of course, not the first one of the tournament, but look at that, all that XP gained as well. Level 15 secured for Hongkyu, 14 for Doggo. And I mean, it feels like that this game is set and match.
Yeah, CFO have really come out swinging today.
And look, the hook is going to miss here from Targamas. The ulti will connect, but the ulti comes through from Kaiwing, keeping Yike in place. And again, what was supposed to be a quick pick, it was a 4v3. Yeah. Like, how does CFO keep doing this where they just constantly have the numbers advantage in any play that KC tried to make?
You can see Yike is not psyched about how this one's going. And it's like you were talking about before. It's just not the level of coordination that we come to expect, right? And CFO, it's like they're a hive mind, man.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe that's what we mean by Junjia team, right? It's just his brain is operating all 5 champions. But there's like an individual version of his brain for all of them that are somewhat connected but can work independently. It's not just great multitasking, it's just more of him.
And Driver, as he has pretty much done throughout this game, he does not care.
Oh, right. Nice little stun is going to come through, but another Magnet Storm comes on down, and Doggo immediately flashing away from the ulti. Kalist not going to be connecting that one, and now they are moving forward. The double ups landing, and Doggo, he does so much damage. Hongkyu looking for the seismic shove. Kana going to get that fat flash over the wall. That'll keep him alive. Make It Rain not doing too much there, so KC will be able to limp away, but that could just still mean Baron.
I mean, another failed attempt on the side of KC as CFO just continue to extend their lead. They were already in a commanding position, and this really will look to put the final nail in the coffin. Yesterday, it was a 2-1 victory for TL, but CFO looking to make this a quick 2-0. As
like, I don't know, man. Like, I swear I didn't quite have the power level at the right point. CFO are looking really, really good. This isn't that, you know, KC are full-on collapsing. This level of coordination is beautiful to watch. The way that they're executing these compositions, absolutely beautiful. It's just some great League of Legends.
And they're keeping it so simple, you know? They're not doing anything crazy. A lot of their players finding themselves on comfort, and they're playing around those strengths. We got to see the advantage as well of the 2 different top laners, the Rumble in game 1, and Driver bringing out the Scion in game 2, the distinction in the playstyles and how it changes, and how Driver is just such a massive meat shield in comparison to the follow-up that Rest was providing on the Rumble.
And this is a battle Scion as well. Look at that Titanic Hydra completed.
Oh, yeah.
He can smash these waves. He already had pretty decent wave
Yeah,
clear as a Scion.
Casey think they have multiple damage
Yeah,
threats.
exactly.
Well.
This is side lane Scion. And like, I know you're pretty good at understanding what Scion does in a side lane, but
Oh, yeah.
this is, look, he's at the inner turret, and that will go down extraordinarily quickly. I don't know, man. This is looking rough. KC, can they find the heroic engage to make something happen? Some poke damage onto Kaiwing. That's a good start, but look at this. The Weaver's Wall set players, they just push Targamas into the wall. He's forced to flash to get himself out of there. Kalist's going to have to blow that cleanse to get out of prison. Vladdy on the top side of the map is going to make it a trade in turrets, but they dove mid lane as well. And so it's a trade up here for CFO. Stoggo moves down, look to try and catch this. So with this Baron buff, they might be able to break open the base. Vladdy looking to go back home as it's once again cleanup duty for the Scion.
I mean, if we kind of go back to the start of this game, it was a situation where Casey finally got themselves a winning bot lane 2v2, and Jun just shut that down. And then, what does Casey want to do? Oh, they want to try and build advantages through their solo laners so they can look to start split pushing. Well, how does CFO respond? They just find fight after fight with constant numbers advantage, and they swing. Even though they don't get all the early game objectives, they keep winning out on the fights. And now they find themselves securing the first tier 3 tower of the game. They've set their sights on the inhibitor. And what options do KC really have? Because if they try to go for the 5v5, I think that CFO's front to back is just stronger once again.
Yeah, this is the problem with falling behind against a composition that has 2 tanks, right? I mentioned the fact that there might be damage issues, but not anymore, right? These tanks are even doing more damage. And the problem is, if this style of composition gets ahead, it is so much harder to find that angle back in. That's why we often say that if you're a team that has a heck of a lot of damage, it's harder to execute because you still have to be very careful.
Oh, yeah.
If you throw your life away, things can really become a problem. It's not really the case here. That's, I think, why you'd say that this is far more of a simple composition. It's not even necessarily that it's simple, it's that it's very forgiving.
100%. And there's something that we saw in this game as well, and something you were just alluding to, is that when you run multiple damage threats, like, what is Sejuani afraid of? You know? Like, if you sit there and think that Casey is the first on a dragon, like, what is she afraid of walking into? The brand stun? Okay, now you've just stunned me. That's one of your few CCs. Now my Scion can walk up behind me. Like, it's just so easy for them to walk up to any objective against this composition, which is why power and strength is so important. Because if you don't have the threat of the kill, then you don't have any threat at all.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Honkyu has bought himself a nice book. This is the youngest player in the tournament, by the way, 17 years of age, and he has a Mejai's Soul Stealer. I cannot wait to see more of this team as we get deeper into first stand, because I've heard some pretty big talk about Honkyu and what he has. Is now Kalist in trouble once again, and just picked off and destroyed. Another gorgeous shove there from Honkyu, the man we were just talking about. And I think he might have heard us. He says, oh, you mean me? Let me just grab another couple of kills. 4-0-6 now for the Taliyah. They'll take down the last remaining inner turret. They're going to look for another inhibitor. Baron or no Baron, they are going to break another section of this base. And KC just left scratching their heads at this point in the series. It's been a whirlwind, and CFO have just left them in the dust.
CFO have made it look easy. A convincing game too, with very few windows of opportunity. They continue to punish, and it's just the fact that Junja's just such an effective driving force. He finds good angles to make plays happen. 1-1 and 11, the scoreline for him.
And Vladdy going to be able to stop Doggo, but look at all of these engages as stopped. Vladdy does manage to get a decent ulti and gets himself out of there, but Yike could pay the price. The AoE is going to be there, but when there's no follow-up, it does not matter, and they trickle in one after the other, but CFO stay as a unit to defend their damage dealer. This might be a little bit of an overstep as Honkyu just goes golden, and Driver is going to do exactly as his name dictates. They take a blast cone. That is going to break up the fight a little bit. And a Weaver's Wall, speaking of breaking things up, actually might be able to create some space here. But CFO, I don't, like, the health bars are low, guys. I understand your confidence.
CFO was trying to go back to base. They were trying to show them a mercy. Kana, at the very least, will get a pick.
Yeah. Shock Blast is going to be able to lock down Honkyu. Going to die for the first time. Also gets rid of some pages in that book. And now Junji, I don't know about that flash, as Yeah, the train is going to be able to tidy up some of them. Doggo with the bullet time gets flashed out of there by Targamas as once again over the wall goes Vladdy. And CFO, just go back home. Let's spend some of that gold. Let's calm down a little. We're trying to sing praises here, man.
Yeah, I mean, Casey, they did what they could out of desperation to catch some members off. But again, that hive mind-like playstyle of CFO, you go for one, you go for them all.
Yeah.
And so the second that Doggo's back was interrupted, the entire team locked on, picked the target, and was there to defend. We look back at this, and again, like, look, they're back in, they're recalling, and what happens? The immediate collapse comes through from CFO. Nice ulti from Vladdy, but he doesn't have any damage to be a real threat. Yike then finds himself overstepped as an easy collapse comes in from CFO, and Targamas is forced to flash to keep his mid laner alive, as KC is then forced to retreat. Now again, Kana does find a nice pick onto the knockup that comes through from Targamas, but that's all it really is. It's just like a nice go-away present, I guess, as they get themselves another kill.
Consolation prize.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank you, Alice.
I like go-away present better, though.
Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
I mean, at this point, Casey would like them to go away. Like, please
Presently,
go away.
please go away.
Yes.
Yeah. I can imagine that they might be thinking something like that. The Baron is probably going to be the one that goes away first, though. As you can see, not a whole lot of avenues in for this one. There's Kana not going to be able to stop it. So the Purple Worm delivered towards CFO. And now one inhibitor lies between them and the enemy Nexus. As Targamas thinking about going for heroic engage. Junjo able to get out of the way. The Chains of Corruption. That's some buttons on cooldown now. As the Glacial Prison, it'll ring true. Doggo has to cancel his ulti early, but these autos are doing so much. And Honkyu from over the wall finds another flick. Driver, I don't know about that one, but he gets a big old shield. Let's see whether he is going to go down. Does eventually go into that passive, but honestly, it works out just the way CFO wanted. And they're looking at a 2-0 in their debut match here at First Stand. What an incredible performance from this team.
Absolutely incredible. Convincing, coordinated, and well executed from start to finish. CFO looking strong in their first best of 3.
Yep, taking down the Nexus now as Targamas just looks to try and escape. And unfortunately, that is not going to escape the end of this game. Honkyu does the honors. The youngest player of the tournament will be able to grab that 50 gold for taking down the Nexus. A beautiful performance here from this squad.